Alright, so we're back with the Honda Rancher. We're going to do the coolant exchange today. So right below here is the radiator. It's going to be the overflow. The type of coolant that I'm going to be using is going to be this Honda brand. This is ready to use, type 2. So hopefully this is the right stuff. I believe it is. I'm pretty sure that's what the owner's manual said. So to drain it, there is a spot on just below the water pump here that we can probably get to, and I think that's the lowest point. So you got the hose coming from the radiator here, and you'll see there's bolt here, bolt up here. This bottom bolt down there, that one actually has an extra washer on it. So that's a crush washer, and that's where we're going to drain the coolant out of. So I'm going to try to do this without making a giant mess, but no guarantees here. We'll see what we can do. Alright, so it is definitely blue fluid. It does look like there's some chunks or something suspended in it. So we're going to change it. This is a 2016. It's never been done. So we're going to change the coolant. I'm going to leave the cap on. I'm hoping that creates a vacuum so we can hopefully bleed it out or drain it out without making a huge mess. Alright, so here's the bolt I took out. It actually has a copper crush washer on it. And that's how I have it set up. So my plan was, like I said, to open up that radiator cap, and hopefully it'll flow from that into the container there, and we'll just do a little by little. Also, by not running it and having everything cold, I'm hoping that whatever sediments in there should be like one of the first things out. So I'm emptying it into this clear container so we can kind of inspect it. Looks like there's some probably dripped on the floor. We can kind of hose that off, but that seemed to work pretty well. I don't have a replacement copper crush washer, so I'm planning just to reuse that. And I'm not sure how much this holds, but it doesn't seem like much. Here's what I took out of the radiator here, and this is going to be the first, like the first part that came out, the first sample. Boy, and it's pretty dark. I can't get it to illuminate at all. Yeah, the light doesn't do much, but you can kind of see there's some particles or something in it. It looks pretty black. So my plan is to basically just pour this stuff in until the radiator's full after I tighten up the bolt on that water pump. I don't think there's any need to run any distilled water through this. So here's the copper washer, and you can tell it's not the best, but what we do have going is the fact that when I pulled this out, it didn't start leaking until I removed the radiator cap. All right, this isn't a bad spot here to get to. So if I have to, if it's leaking, I can always get a copper crush washer from the dealer. I don't think you can get them at the parts store. I couldn't find anything that size. And we can just change it, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It also was extremely tight. It did make me just a little bit nervous that the thing was gonna like twist off in there, because it was very, very tight with this, and it kind of felt like everything was flexing a little bit. So just be aware of that. I'm sure this has a torque spec. Again, it can't be much. It's just a 10 millimeter, and I just released it with this 1/4 inch drive. So I'm just gonna tighten it up until it seems like it's snug, and then go from there. I really don't want to twist that off, because that is just aluminum in there. So that should be good. We'll dry it off, and then we'll start filling it up here. Alright, so I did it without a funnel. I just used 2 hands and was very careful. So I got about, I'm guessing, probably 1.5 quarts in there. So I don't know if there's air bubbles in this or if it's pretty much good as is. Usually if you squeeze the hose a little bit, you can sometimes get a little air out, but I bet it's pretty close. That might be it. So what I think I'm going to do is run it and hopefully get the level set, and then the overflow, which is down in here, looks like we could just probably pull this hose off here. We could drain it out and get that out of there and then put in fresh, so that wouldn't be too difficult. But like I said, I'd like to run it first just to make sure I don't run out of coolant first. Alright, so the toughest part of this is getting this stupid little hose clamp, if you want to call it that, off. That's probably the most difficult part. So I got the coolant cap open. This is the lava hot radiator. So I just got done running this thing and I ran it above idle with my hand on the throttle forever trying to get the fan to kick in. I thought maybe the electric fan wasn't working, but this thing's got to get really hot, and the whole time it's only showing 2 bars of temperature, no temperature light or anything like that. And finally the fan kicks in. Boy, I'm telling you, everything is really hot. There's even like steam coming off the radiator, probably still got some water in there from when I washed it or whatever, and just super hot. So like I said, we should have plenty of coolant left, so I'm gonna see if I can just pull this off the bottom and make a huge giant mess like that. Let me see if I can get my container back. Alright, let's see if we can do this here. There's not much in this overflow, I can tell you that. When I first got the machine, it was a little low, actually. I had to put a little in, so, oops. Antifreeze all over everything here. So we could flush this out too with some distilled water, but I don't know. The coolant actually didn't look as bad as I thought it was going to be for never being changed. I was really kind of nervous about this, but I'm glad that it didn't look too awful, and I think we caught it in time here. It didn't cause any issues or anything, so we'll let this drip and go from there. Alright, so it's all empty. They said I didn't do any cleaning with it. I'm going to try to dump some in here without making a royal mess. Actually, I'm probably going to have to set the camera down. Alright, so let's hope the camera stays there. Hopefully, this won't make it too much of a mess here. Holy smokes, I'd say that's enough. Barely poured anything in there. So yeah, I would say 2 quarts is probably plenty of coolant. So we're above the upper level, which I'm okay with, because if you look at this, if it gets too high, you actually got a clear tube that it can come out. So that should be alright. So we just got the cap here. So what I'll probably do is let this thing cool off, come back, check the radiator and see where that's at, and double check that bolt to make sure it's not leaking. And then if it's good, probably just take it around and drive it a little bit just to get it back up to operating temperature.